नमस्कार। भारत की माननीय राष्ट्रपति जी, केंद्रीय शिक्षा मंत्री आदरणीय श्री धर्मेंद्र प्रधान जी, केंद्रीय शिक्षा राज्य मंत्री श्री सुकांता मजुमदार जी, प्रधानमंत्री जी के सलाहकार श्री अमित खरे जी, राष्ट्रपति जी के सचिव श्रीमती दीप्ति उमाशंकर जी, सचिव उच्चतम शिक्षा विभाग श्री विनीत जोशी जी और देश भर से उपस्थित उच्च शैक्षणिक संस्थानों के डायरेक्टर्स और वाइस चांसलर्स और तथा प्रतिनिधियों का 2 दिवसीय विजिटर्स कॉन्फ्रेंस के समापन सत्र में हम हार्दिक स्वागत करते हैं। दूसरे दिन के समापन सत्र की शुरुआत हम देश भर से आए उच्च शिक्षण संस्थानों के बीच विभिन्न विषयों पर हुए 5 सत्रों की समीक्षा टिप्पणी से करेंगे। प्रत्येक सत्र के समापन टिप्पणी के लिए हम सबसे पहले आमंत्रित करेंगे प्रोफेसर आनंद भालेराव जी को, वाइस चांसलर सेंट्रल यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ राजस्थान। आपके सत्र का थीम था फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी इन एकेडमिक कोर्सेज, क्रेडिट शेयरिंग एंड क्रेडिट ट्रांसफर विद मल्टीपल एंट्री एंड एग्जिट ऑप्शंस।
Honorable President, Honorable Education Minister, Honorable Minister of State for Education, Advisor to Honorable PM, Secretary Higher Education, Secretary to Honorable President. Good evening to everyone who are present in the dais. Our session 1 was on flexibility in academic courses, credit sharing and credit transfer with multiple entry and exit options. Our panel was consisting of directors of IIM, NIT, IIIT, Central University, Vice Chancellors of Central University, Chairman of AICTE, 6 Central Universities, 3 IITs, 3 NITs were participating in this one, including 2 IIITs also. Following are the takeaways from our discussion. There is a need for academic flexibility. Credit sharing and transfer is a pathway for the students' mobility. We should study the global best practices as for the model for India. Multiple entry and exit options will democratize the higher education in India. There are challenges in implementation and the way forward. While these reforms are promising, our discussions also highlighted several challenges that must be addressed. Few of the challenges which we have listed are: the first one is institutional readiness. Many universities still follow the rigid framework and need significant restructuring to adopt flexible curricula. Second is inter-university coordination. Establishing partnership and aligning policies across the institutions is critical for credit mobility. Technology and transfer. The digital platforms supporting credit transfer, such as Academic Bank of Credit, need robust integration and security measures. Quality control is another challenge, ensuring that transferred credit remains academic rigor and relevance to the degree programs is essential. Regulatory frameworks are also essential. A clear and transparent regulatory structure is needed to facilitate smooth empanelmentation and prevent misuse of credit transfer system. For addressing these challenges, we have also given few recommendations for the future. The first one is strengthening the policy and regulatory framework, building digital infrastructure for the credit transfer, enhancing university collaborations and partnerships, capacity building for faculty and administrators, ensuring student awareness and engagement, fostering industry collaboration and skill development, and important one is equivalence of the courses, which will definitely facilitate the making implementation of credit transfer as well as implementation of multiple entry and exit. Thank you.
धन्यवाद प्रोफेसर भालेराव जी। और दिन के दूसरे सत्र का थीम था इंटरनेशनलाइजेशन एफर्ट्स एंड कोलैबोरेशन। इस सत्र की समापन टिप्पणी के लिए हम आमंत्रित करेंगे सत्र के अध्यक्ष प्रोफेसर एम जगदीश कुमार, चेयरमैन यूजीसी।
Honorable President of India, Honorable Minister of Education, Honorable Ministry of State, Education Advisor to Honorable Prime Minister, Secretary Higher Education, and Secretary to Honorable President of India. Our session focused on internationalization efforts and collaborations. And during the panel discussions, we focused on the importance of collaborations and global partnerships and the initiatives that are required for greater internationalization of higher education in India. Friends, you know that India has been witnessing accelerated growth during last 10 years, whether it is economic growth or technological development, and the innovations that are taking place in our country makes our country, it has a great potential for internationalization of higher education. The launch of National Education Policy marks an important milestone in transforming India's education landscape. NEP 2020 tells us about the importance of internationalization at home and promoting India as a Vishwaguru. During our deliberations, we focused on three kinds of internationalization. One is encouraging our own educational institutions to go abroad and set up our campuses there. We already have the examples of IIT Madras and IIT Delhi, and we looked at the potential that India has in attracting international students to our country. And thirdly, we also looked at the possibility of providing high quality international education to our own students at home. And in all these three areas, the UGC has issued regulations to facilitate this. For example, setting up of the campuses of international institutions in India, twinning joint and dual degree programs. Many universities have already adopted this twinning joint and dual degree programs. Several international universities are also working on setting up their campuses in India. And in addition to these IITs, there are many more institutions from India which have the great potential to set up our campuses abroad. One important thing that we discussed was that when we want to bring international students to India, we need to focus on the global south. You know that India conducted very successfully recently the G20 summit, and the education working group of G20 passed a resolution emphasizing on the need to reach out across the borders in academics and research collaborations. So therefore it provides us a greater opportunity for us to internationalization. But however, many of the colleagues who participated in the panel discussion also emphasized on strengthening our own education system within India by speedily implementing the NEP 2020 so that we have the best educational system within our own country. And they also pointed out that our education system should provide a very unique education to the international students. Only then we will be able to attract them. And one of the ideas that came is introducing, for example, Indian knowledge systems as part of our education, and also introducing more and more Indian study cases, such as recently we conducted one of the largest gatherings of humans on earth, Kumbh Mela. That could be a case study. The way we handled the COVID. So many more Indian case studies have to be introduced in our higher education system. And lastly, we all felt that there is a greater need for branding our higher educational institutions. Groups of vice chancellors and heads of educational institutions should visit some of these countries in the global south and promote our higher education. And lastly, The alumni also play an important role. Therefore, we should connect with our alumni in promoting our Indian higher education at the international level. Thank you. Thank you very much.
धन्यवाद सर। और दिन के तीसरे सत्र का थीम था ट्रांसलेशन, रिसर्च और इनोवेशन। इस सत्र के कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क्स के लिए हम आमंत्रित करते हैं प्रोफेसर गोविंदन रंगराजन, डायरेक्टर, इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ साइंस, IISc, बैंगलोर। सर।
Honorable President of India, Honorable Minister of Education, Honorable Minister of State for Education, Honorable Advisor to the Prime Minister, Secretary Higher Education, Secretary to the Honorable President. It's my pleasure to present you the summary of the discussions which have taken place on translational research and innovation. The first slide just to tell you that the variety of people who are involved. Here I wanted to show the schedule to show that we adopted a slightly different way of doing this discussion. We crowdsourced the ideas from the panelists. So we found out what are the main challenges that their institutions face in doing translational research and innovation. And the questions we addressed were based on those. So as far as translational research and innovation, we all know that this is a process of taking discoveries, fundamental scientific discoveries and ideas to products and applications that benefit the whole human race. And these are various steps involved. I won't go through those steps. So let me go to the next slide. Next please. And one of the challenges, main challenges facing this whole process of translational research and innovation are the valleys of death. It is not just one valley of death, but there are multiple valleys of death which hinder the progress from basic research to ideas, to products. So there could be valleys of death going from proof of concept to prototype, from prototype to product, and from product to market. So we have to have a process which addresses all these valleys of death. Next slide, please. So the first question that the panelists came up with was how to change the faculty mindset and the student mindset so that they take up these issues of translation research and innovation. That is one of the major hindrances to doing this successfully. And there are many steps we felt that could be taken to make this possible. Things like promotion criteria, where you include translational research and innovation as one of the criteria. But at the same time, everybody felt that one cannot dilute fundamental research because the whole citadel of translation research is based on the fundamental research. Without the fundamental research, this whole edifice will collapse. So it's very important to do that. And we also would need fellowships for translation research to incentivize students and so on. Maybe semester breaks for students to take up translation research. And equally importantly, the last one is using AI tools. I think this is something which is not being fully used for research. Many people are using it for trivial things like writing essays, poetry, and things like that. But more and more, the AI tools should be used as an aid for research. I think that is something which there should be an increased focus from all institutions. And other question we addressed was how to build the necessary ecosystem. Because we are very bright people, bright faculty, bright students. What is preventing them from doing translation research and innovation? It's one hindrance is the ecosystem. So, for example, you would need large-scale funding to promote translational research. As has been often said, probably the whole research funding should go up to 2% of the GDP. And very important is a special focus and attention for central universities. They typically do not have sufficient funds to set up incubators because their fees are low. They don't have enough internal resources to set up these things. So we need to give special attention to supporting the central universities and second-tier CFTIs. And we should also identify long-term challenges. And there are many others like patenting office, etc., which are common among some of the well-established institutions. but they are not so common in other institutions. So I think this is something which tells you that these are things, policies, etc., which should be adopted across all institutions. And they would need financial support. Without financial support, it may not be possible for them. So let me go to the next slide. And the other third hindrance was how do you attract and partner with industries? Because industries tend to mistrust the academia. They feel that they are confined to their ivory towers. They don't come out and interact with industry. So what we need is to get industry-defined problems for student and research projects, maybe have guest lectures by industry professionals, establish world-class research facilities that industry can use, because especially if you look at MSMEs and so on, they can't afford research facilities. So if you establish very strong research facilities in these academic institutions, they'll come forward to interact with the academia. And it's not that every institution has to do translation research. You need institutions maybe which focus on basic research, others that focus more on translational research, but there should be a gradation. It's not one size fits all. And you should also build the track record with industry and make sure that any success story that emerge are well documented and distributed to all institutions so that everybody can learn from these success stories. I think otherwise everybody tries to reinvent the wheel. So these are some of the major questions that we addressed here. Next slide, please. So I'll end with this. So in the innovation ecosystem, there are four partners. One is the government, which provides the funding and regulation. You have the institutions which provide R&D. Then you have the industry, which provides manufacturing and marketing. And of course, even now a lot of research also. And society, most important, which provides us problem definition and solution validation. But these are not sufficient. You also need startups and ventures, incubators, which will create all these startups. You need accelerators for the startups to gain a market entry. You need investors to scale up and sustain, and you also need media for promotion and branding. So we need all these various factors to come together so that we can have a very successful translational research and innovation ecosystem. Thank you.
धन्यवाद प्रोफेसर रंगराजन जी। दिन के चौथे सत्र का थीम था इफेक्टिव स्टूडेंट सिलेक्शन प्रोसेसेस एंड रिस्पेक्टिंग स्टूडेंट चॉइसेस इन कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ एनईपी। और इस सत्र के कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क्स के लिए हम आमंत्रित करते हैं प्रोफेसर मनिंद्रा अग्रवाल जी को, डायरेक्टर आईआईटी कानपुर।
Honorable President of India, Honorable Minister of Education, Honorable Minister of State of Education, advisors to the Honorable Prime Minister, Secretary to the President of India, and Secretary of Ministry of Education. It's my pleasure to bring to you the summary of the discussion we had earlier in the day today. Our topic was, had covered two aspects of it, which is how do we select students to our academic institutions, and also once they come in, what are the choices available to them, how do we facilitate or enable them to choose better. So we have split our thought process into these two segments, and for each we have identified certain challenges and made certain suggestions. Next slide. So coming to the effective selection of students, the challenges are manifold, particularly when we look at the undergraduate program that we run. There are way too many entrance examinations. Coaching has become a real burden on our student body, leading to a lot of stresses, neglection of the school education. There is also questions that as to do we really need very specific subject-based examinations. Many of the institutions are hampered by late declaration of results. And another challenge which is specific to rural and northeast region is how do we mainstream those students? Some suggestions that we have for that is, the key one is low staking of examination. No examination should be is very high stake. Now when coming to the specific requirements from Northeast student, we learned that in certain NITs located in that region, they are unable to fill up the seats reserved for this region because the 75% cutoff is not being met by many. So that is something that may be considered specific to those regions. Now coming to low staking of examination and reducing the burden of coaching, this was part of recommendations of NEP also, that we should aim to transition to loft or linear on-the-fly testing model, which is essentially an aptitude-based test, which can be adaptive so that it can be taken anytime, anywhere by students. There are a number of studies for SAT, which is a similar examination, which show that after 30-40 hours of coaching, the impact of coaching becomes minimal. So that will certainly help reduce the impact. Next slide, please. Okay, now coming to the student choices when they enter. With the advent of NEP, a number of institutions have enabled various exit options for the students, but the entry options are still not that many. In fact, the previous speaker alluded to and have made certain recommendations, so I'm not going to repeat that. We have a very wide variety of institutions, from very small ones with a small body of students to large universities having 50,000 plus students. So one size or one prescription cannot fit all, because the problems faced by large universities are very different from the small institutions. So particularly the large universities are even struggling with the basic infrastructure. So for them, a more immediate concern is how to enable the basic facilitation to the students. So they also have faced the challenge that many, even though they bring in innovation in the curriculum, the students are not ready to avail of them because, for example, UPSC is still focusing on traditional subjects and not looking at the new age subjects. So a lot of students in the universities tend to focus on the traditional subjects. Regular evaluations is also very time consuming for large systems. And also this have a challenge in terms of selection of faculty, because a number of restrictions of what should be the background of the faculty that can be recruited, and evaluation also suffer from challenges. Next. To address some of these key issues, one suggestion is to use AI in evaluation. When we do want to do large-scale evaluation, today we have AI-based tools which can excuse me, significantly speed up these evaluations. For smooth movement of students from one institution to another, the academic bank of credit is already in the place. It needs to be enabled even more to ensure it. Courses should be, as much as possible, be allowed to be taken up in hybrid mode to reach out to a much larger body of students. And institutions, given that as a whole, as a country, we have resource constraint, so as much as possible, institutions should share resources. If there is a specific course being offered at one institution, it should be possible to offer it to the students to the other institutions as well. Finally, coming to other broader challenges that we face our system today, one of the biggest one is the mental health. The way the society today is, the way various pressures are acting, our students as well as faculty are facing increased stresses, and our system as a whole, all of us collectively need to take special steps to address that. There are many institutions where one of the reasons they are unable to implement several things is because the academic leadership is not immediately available. There are certain delays in appointment of those. So that is something that we request the ministry to take a note of and help us with that. And finally, the NIRF ranking mechanism perhaps needs a relook because it is introducing distortions into the system. A number of institutions are simply trying to gain the parameters, which was certainly not the intent. The intent was to identify the institutions that are doing well, identify their strengths, and then also weaknesses so that they can focus on their weaknesses. So maybe there is a need to review the way an IRF ranking is done and take appropriate measures. Thank you.
धन्यवाद प्रोफेसर अग्रवाल। और दिन के अंतिम और 5वें सत्र का थीम था इफेक्टिव असेसमेंट्स एंड इवैल्यूएशन। इस सत्र के कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क्स के लिए हम आमंत्रित करते हैं डॉक्टर राधाकृष्णन, फॉर्मर चेयरमैन इसरो एंड चेयरमैन बीओजी आईआईटी कानपुर।
Honorable President of India, Honorable Minister of Education, Honorable Minister of State Education, distinguished advisor to Honorable Prime Minister, Secretary to Honorable President, Secretary Higher Education, eminent academicians. I am privileged to present the concluding remarks of Session 5 prepared by a team of 70 academicians today. After the student comes to the institute, how do we assess, how do we evaluate them? That is the topic. Let me state the context. Firstly, technology is advancing exponentially, and it's also pervading into all areas of our life, including pedagogy. Hence, it is imperative to cultivate multidisciplinary minds, that's the students, to assimilate and to apply the knowledge in a highly technology-centric world. NEP 2020 states two important things. One is holistic development of students. Number two is outcome-based education. So we will discuss that. There are three key enablers. One is the faculty, second is the program, third one is the institution. So we will address this aspect also. When we talk about the facets of holistic development of students, there is an intellectual part, there is an aesthetic part, there is a social and physical aspect, and extracurricular activities like sports and arts which have to get into it. There is an emotional part of it, ethical part, and all this together will bring that value-based education that we talk about. The objective is to have a global citizen, a well-rounded person who must have a balanced compass of 4 quotients. We know about intelligence quotient. Here we need to have that for the domain, the emotional quotient, an enterprising quotient, and a spiritual quotient. That's about the ethical part of it. And when we talk about the outcome-based education, there are 5 dimensions to look at. One is the knowledge acquisition, ability to recall and reproduce. Next is the application of knowledge to solve a problem. Third is the analytical ability to decipher patterns and trends and critical thinking process. Equally important is the ability to synthesize from multivarious inputs, new ideas should come out. And the objective of learning is learning how to learn, and that has to be inculcated in the students. And it is imperative now to assess and evaluate students on these 5 dimensions. Let us see the word assessment. Assessment means gathering information. And it has to be done systematically. And in the context of NEP 2020, it has to be done systemically as a total system. We all know about the formative assessment versus the summative assessment. It is essential to identify the learning needs of each student, and also improve the pedagogy based on the feedback that you get from them. And this is a continuing process, and actionable feedbacks are required both for the students and the faculty. We also talk about multi-layered and multi-source assessment. Today it is from the teacher. It has to come from the self, it has to come from the parent, it has to come from the teacher, and it has to come from the society. Because we are trying to develop citizens who are society-centric, who will have the sensitivity to the society. And how do we measure that? It's also important. In the context of national credit framework, we need to have a uniformity in the evaluation. This is a huge task because from a class of 13 in IIT to an open university with lakhs of students, how do we ensure this process? And there are several taxonomies available, including the Bloom, but the team felt we need to have an Indianized taxonomy to be developed. Coming to evaluation, evaluation is essentially making judgments, and that has to be fair and transparent. And there has to be predefined criteria. And finally, need stratification and scoring. And here we have to ensure the uniformity across the institution. One thing which is important is to note the uniqueness of the student. Like we say, specially abled children, there are specially gifted children. How do we identify that and nurture that? This is important. There is also a discussion about the quality of the papers and doctoral theses that come out of Indian universities, which is the latest subject of talk. It is necessary to relook at this process of evaluation of the doctoral thesis in all universities. We see the whole spectrum today. Now coming to the 3 key enablers, faculty. Selection, induction, and mentoring of faculty is extremely important. Half-life of skills that is coming down. So they need to refresh themselves and renew through research. And how do we convert that knowledge into national wealth? The group 3 indicated how to do that. On the programs, there has to be relevance to society and industry, and translational research, innovation, entrepreneurship, these are important to be added. And finally, we need to have future-ready pedagogy. And for institutions, transformative reforms for assessment and accreditation is on the anvil to be implemented, and there are several policies and regulations in place, and a few more will be required in this context. Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity.
थैंक यू सर। 8वें विजिटर्स कॉन्फ्रेंस की समीक्षा और भविष्य की राह पर और जानकारी देने के लिए हम आमंत्रित करेंगे श्री विनीत जोशी जी, सचिव उच्चतर शिक्षा विभाग, शिक्षा मंत्रालय।
Honorable President, Honorable Minister of Education, Honorable Minister of State for Education, Advisor to Honorable Prime Minister, Secretary to Honorable President, Vice Chancellors, Directors and esteemed guests. It's an honor to address this esteemed gathering at the conclusion of the Visitors Conference 2024-25, a forum that has brought together visionary leaders, educationists, and policy makers to deliberate on the future of higher education in India. The National Education Policy 2020 is a transformational reform rooted in ancient Indian principles that uphold the pursuit of knowledge, wisdom, and truth as the highest human goals. Built on the 5 key pillars: learner-centric education, digital learning, academic research and internationalization, industry-institute collaboration, and Indian knowledge system, the NEP 2020 envisions a holistic, inclusive, high-quality, and accessible education ecosystem. In the last 2 days, we have deliberated and explored various facets of NEP 2020 spread across the sessions on the 5 core thematic areas relevant to the need of present issues and challenges. The first session, as we saw, highlighted the importance of flexibility in academic courses and transfer of credits in a multiple entry and exit system. The core objective of this theme was to empower students with a well-rounded, multidisciplinary education by seamlessly integrating diverse domains such as humanities, sciences, and skill-based learning. The multi-entry and exit system is envisaged to facilitate the movement of students within academic and skill development institutions and to allow them to transition between academic and professional journey as and when needed. Enabled through the academic bank of credits that facilitates seamless credit transfers through APAR ID, students now have unprecedented flexibility in their academic journey. Though we have achieved some major milestones under this initiative, as more than 4 crore APAR IDs have been created and more than 3 crore credit records mapped to these unique student IDs, enabling them to see their learning progress. Still, we have challenges ahead to translating and using these tools in actual advantage to every student. First session also emphasized the need for standardization of learning outcomes and identifying entry and exit points, enabling students re-entry in educational ecosystem, exit, and mapping of relevant skill courses. The second session was on internationalization efforts and collaboration. It underscored the significance of internationalization, which is also one of the core pillars of NEP 2020. To advance this initiative, the UGC has established guidelines enabling foreign higher education institutions to set up campuses and operations in India. University of Southampton has initiated setting up of its offshore campus in Gurugram, which will be the first foreign offshore campus in the country. Additionally, our initiatives such as SPARK, Scheme for Promotion of Academic and Research Collaborations, and GYAN, Global Initiative for Academic Networks, are enhancing international research partnerships and faculty exchanges respectively. Internationalization aim is to leverage each other's best knowledge and establish Bharat as global educational destination. The discussions in the second session also highlighted importance of offering courses such as yoga, wellness, skill upgradation, disruptive technology in cost-effective modes so that India can serve as knowledge capital for Global South. The third session was on translation research and innovation. It emphasized the crucial role of the government, industry, and academia in building a knowledge-based economy. It focused on how translational research can be effectively leveraged to develop market-ready products and solutions for industries, society, and global markets. We acknowledge that translation research as an area inherently carries some risks, such as long gestation periods and the challenge of bringing scientific discovery with real-world implementation. To navigate this, government, industry, and academia must work in synergy, leveraging each other's strengths while providing support in areas where one can take the lead. The fourth theme was on effective student selection processes and respecting student choices in the context of NEP. It endorsed the need for a holistic, flexible and student-centric approach to education. NEP 2020 also advocates for inclusive student selection based on diverse skills beyond standardized exams, moving beyond rigid academic structures. Panel also deliberated for need of multiple selection methodology as entry points will be multiple due to multiple entry and exit points. Different courses and their selection system has to be designed based on students' learning outcome, opting to exit at different levels. We need to promote use of AI-based assessment systems, enabling every learner to assess his knowledge and skill in near real-time basis. The fifth session was on effective assessments and evaluation. As we explored the final theme of the conference on effective assessments and evaluation, it is important to note that assessment framework should do more than just ranking the students. Recognizing that every student has a unique blend of skills and talents, the education system must adapt to identify and nurture these qualities, appreciating achievements within both formal and informal education landscapes. Recognizing both formal and informal learning is crucial today, and shifting to competency-based assessment ensures skills and abilities define a learner's true potential. The way forward demands a bold vision, one that fosters innovation, strengthens collaboration, and positions India as a powerhouse of knowledge and research. We need to ensure that every student in the country has an APAR ID and that every APAR ID gets seeded with credits. It is equally important that the institutes should collaborate and identify courses so that student mobility can be ensured, empowering them learn as per their choice. Further, we understand that disruptive tools such as AI and IoT are already making an impact, and to complement this, the Government of India has set up 3 COEs in AI for healthcare, agriculture, and sustainable cities. Additionally, a new COE in AI for education has been approved to be established in the latest budget. Research should be promoted in all domains, either science, technology, and humanities, and it should be linked with product or outcome, making them useful for economy, society, and the country. Advanced assessment and skill proficiency tests should be adopted so that students and learners can identify gaps in their skills. These tools have to be aligned with the industry needs and the requirements. Dignitaries, as we know that the NEP 2020 endorses that every skill and knowledge has to be recognized, so I will conclude with one example as illustrated in the holy scripture of Mahabharata. Arjuna learned archery through formal education system while from Guru Dronacharya, while Eklavya mastered the same skill through self-learning, proving that multiple learning pathways can be equally effective. We have to create an education system which can assess and recognize knowledge irrespective of learning pathways. That will empower every individual and provide them opportunity to make Bharat as Viksit Bharat by 2047. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
धन्यवाद सचिव महोदय। और अब हम केंद्रीय शिक्षा मंत्री श्री धर्मेंद्र प्रधान जी से समापन संबोधन के लिए अनुरोध करेंगे।
Honorable President of India, Srimati Droupadi Murmu ji, Minister Sukanta Majumdar ji, Sri Amit Khare ji, Madam Dipti Umasankar ji, Secretary Vinit Joshi ji, Vice Chancellors and Directors present here, Senior Officers of President Secretariat and Ministry of Education, esteemed guests. As we assemble here for the concluding session of this two-day conference, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Honorable President of India for her words of inspiration while inaugurating the conference yesterday. We are also grateful for her gracious presence today amongst us during this concluding session. I take this opportunity to acknowledge the active participation of each one of you in the 5-panel discussion held today. Your insights and contributions have led to fruitful deliberations. We have heard diverse perspectives today, and I assure you that every viewpoint shared will be valued. Panel of chairmen of respective sessions have already presented the key takeaways from their sessions. I will share my thoughts on the overall direction of our deliberations and the nation-building interface of our institutions. Friends, today among us, we have representatives from three key bodies: leaders of 184 of our nation's premier institutions, representatives from the government, most importantly, the apex level, the Honorable President of India, who serves as the visitor to these institutions. But what we are missing in this gathering are our students, who are the very backbone of our education system. I believe that education cannot flourish without its most important stakeholders, our students. They are not just recipients of knowledge, but the very foundation on which our education system stands. It is essential that we never lose sight of the students' interests. Investing in their education, equipping them with the right skills and empowering them to dream big and also help them achieve their dream is not just an academic obligation, it is our duty to the nation. You all as leaders have an important role to play in this direction. As our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has often emphasized, our mantra must always be nation first. And what greater service there is to nation than strengthening the very foundation of that will shape its future. This is guiding principle is reflected in the transformative policies and initiatives from Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, which has improved public health and sanitation, to Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, which has championed the cause of girls' education. The Jal Jeevan Mission, which has ensured access to clean drinking water. Every initiative has been a step towards empowering our citizens and strengthening our nations. Under the visionary leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji, the farmers, the women, the youth and the poor have remained at the heart of the government's policy and priorities. From women-led development to women-led development, our government has changed the focus and orientation towards issues facing women. We have passed the historic Nari Shakti Bandhan Adhiniyam to ensure that 1/3 of the seats in the Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies are reserved for the women. On the economic front, our government has undertaken bold and transformative reforms to drive inclusive growth and empower every citizen. The Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana laid the foundation of financial inclusion at an unprecedented scale, ensuring that even the most marginalized section of society have access to the banking services. By linking these accounts with Aadhaar and mobile numbers, we create the JAM Trinity, enabling direct benefit transfers that have eliminated middlemen, curbed leakages and ensured that every rupee of government welfare reaches its rightful beneficiaries. At the same time, our Make in India initiatives and PLI schemes are transforming the country into a global manufacturing hub, reducing our dependency on imports and making India Atmanirbhar. Through initiatives like Startup India, the government has created a thriving ecosystem that empowers young entrepreneurs. It provides them with financial and regulatory support and nurtures their ideas into successful ventures. Over the last 10 years, our government has worked tirelessly to unify the nation, harnessing the power of unity under the vision of Ek Bharat, Shrestha Bharat. Policies like One Nation, One Tax, GST, One Nation, One Ration Card, One Nation, One Subscription, or the proposed One Nation, One Election reflects the government's commitment towards creating a cohesive and efficient governance structure. At the core of these reforms in our government's policy of minimum government, maximum governance, it is a commitment to improving the efficiency and effectiveness of governance mechanism. Structural re-engineering is being done across the government along with consolidation and merger. Merger of public sector banks, rationalization of the number of tribunals, introduction of new labor code, consolidating 13 labor laws, repeal the redundant and obsolete laws, among others, are the highlights of the government's action on improving the efficiency of the system. Reflecting this commitment, our government is soon going to bring before Parliament the Higher Education Commission of India bill in order to strengthen and empower our higher education institutions. HECI will mark a paradigm shift in higher education system with the objective to create a more streamlined, responsive and effective regulatory accreditation and standardization framework that enables institutions to reach their full potential. HECI is a key component of the NEP vision for higher education reform that has potential to drive the development agenda for a Vikasit Bharat. To achieve vision of Vikasit Bharat, our institutions must prioritize the effective implementation of NEP. This is a holistic and transformative framework that seeks to promote multidisciplinary research, industry-academia collaboration, student flexibility, and most importantly, the ever-dynamic field of Indian knowledge system. Under NEP, Indian knowledge system and Indian language learning will be the game changers in the accelerating learning outcome and fostering deeper intellectual and cultural roots. Recognizing this, recent budget has given due importance to this aspect through initiatives like the Bharatiya Bhasha Pustak scheme, Gyan Bharati mission for a manuscript, and creation of a national digital repository of IKS. Efforts have been made to ensure that education remains rooted in our culture and ethos and at the same time futuristic to meet the demands of 21st century. Today has been a truly productive and enriching day filled with insightful discussion and forward-thinking ideas. As we leave this conference, let us remember that the responsibility of shaping India's education system rests on our shoulders. The implementation of NEP is not just a policy mandate, it's a national mission. It calls for education, adoption and course correction when needed. Learning from each other's best practices is indeed the key to achieve the speed and scale in the NEP implementation. The ideas and recommendations that have emerged from today's discussion must not remain confined to this hall. They should translate into correct actions that strengthen our institutions, empower our students and elevate the quality of education. I hope this two-day event has given each one of you renewed motivation and clarity of purpose. The road ahead is challenging, but together with a shared vision and commitment, we can redefine our education system and create a knowledge-driven, self-reliant Bharat firmly on its way to fulfill developed country by 2047. Let us move forward with urgency and determination, knowing that every step we take today is shaping the future of our nation. Thank you, friends.
धन्यवाद मंत्री महोदय। अब हम 8वें विजिटर्स कॉन्फ्रेंस के कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क्स के लिए माननीय राष्ट्रपति जी को सादर आमंत्रित करेंगे।
इस विजिटर्स कॉन्फ्रेंस के समापन सत्र में उपस्थित केंद्रीय शिक्षा मंत्री श्री धर्मेंद्र प्रधान जी, शिक्षा राज्य मंत्री डॉक्टर सुकांत मजुमदार जी, प्रधानमंत्री के सलाहकार श्री अमित खेरे जी, उच्च शिक्षा सचिव श्री विनीत जोशी जी, राष्ट्रपति के सचिव श्रीमती दीप्ति उमाशंकर जी, भारत सरकार के वरिष्ठ अधिकारीगण, केंद्रीय विश्वविद्यालय के सभी कुलपति, अन्य केंद्रीय संस्थानों के सभी निर्देशक, गणमान्य अतिथियों, देवियों और स्वजन। भारत के उच्च शिक्षण संस्थानों से जुड़े इस अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण कॉन्फ्रेंस के सफल आयोजन के लिए मैं शिक्षा मंत्री श्री धर्मेंद्र प्रधान जी को, उनकी पूरी टीम को, सभी प्रतिभागियों को तथा आयोजन के लिए सक्रिय योगदान देने वाले राष्ट्रपति सचिवालय के सभी लोगों को बधाई देती हूँ। इस कॉन्फ्रेंस के लिए चुने गए विषयों पर हुए विचार मंथन का सारांश सुनकर मैं कह सकती हूँ कि उच्च शिक्षा से जुड़े अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण आयामों पर उपयोगी निष्कर्ष निकले हैं। इस समापन सत्र में संक्षिप्त प्रस्तुतियां करने वाले विशेषज्ञों तथा विस्तार से गहन विमर्श करने वाले उनकी टीमों के सभी सदस्यों को मैं सराहना करती हूँ। पाठ्यक्रमों की फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी, क्रेडिट शेयरिंग, क्रेडिट ट्रांसफर, मल्टीपल एंट्री एंड एग्जिस्ट ओपिनियंस राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति 2020 के तहत लागू किए गए ऐतिहासिक बदलाव है। मुझे विश्वास है कि विद्यार्थियों की सुविधा को आप सब केंद्र में रखेंगे। टेक्नोलॉजी के माध्यम से एकेडमिक फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी को आप सब प्रभावी बनाएंगे। इससे विद्यार्थियों को बहुमुखी प्रतिभा विकसित करने तथा अपनी पसंद के पाठ्यक्रमों में अध्ययन करने में अवसर प्राप्त होंगे। 21वीं सदी के पहली चौथाई के अंत में हम स्वाधीन भारत के अमृत काल से गुजर रहे हैं। इस सदी के पूर्वार्ध के संपन्न होने के पहले ही भारत को विकसित देश बनाने का हमारे राष्ट्रीय लक्ष्य है। इस लक्ष्य को प्राप्त करने के लिए शिक्षण संस्थानों से जुड़े सभी लोगों को तथा विद्यार्थियों को ग्लोबल माइंडसेट के आधार पर आगे बढ़ना होगा। ये प्रयास होना चाहिए कि भारत के उच्च शिक्षा संस्थानों से के प्रति दूसरे देश आकर्षित हो तथा अन्य देशों के शिक्षण संस्थानों से हमारे देश की उच्च शिक्षा व्यवस्था का जुड़ाव बढ़े। इंटरनेशनलाइजेशन एफर्ट्स एंड कोलैबोरेशंस के मजबूत होने से हमारे युवा विद्यार्थी 21वीं सदी के विश्व में अपनी और अधिक प्रभावी पहचान बनाएंगे। देश के उच्च शिक्षण संस्थानों में विश्व स्तरीय शिक्षा मिलने से विदेश जाकर पढ़ने के प्रवृत्ति की कमी आएगी। देश की युवा प्रतिभा का राष्ट्र निर्माण में बेहतर उपयोग हो सकेंगे। हमारे प्रयास होना चाहिए कि विकसित देशों से विद्यार्थियों और शिक्षक भारत आकर शिक्षा और अनुसंधान से जुड़े। हमारे देश विश्व की तीसरी सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बनने की ओर अग्रसर हो रही है। आत्मनिर्भर होगा सही अर्थ में विकसित, बड़ी तथा सुदृढ़ अर्थव्यवस्था की पहचान है। अनुसंधान और नवाचार पर आधारित आत्मनिर्भरता हमारी उद्यमों और अर्थव्यवस्था को मजबूत बनाएंगे। ऐसे अनुसंधान और नवाचार को हर संभव सहायता मिलनी चाहिए। विकसित अर्थव्यवस्थाओं में एकेडमिया इंडस्ट्री इंटरफेस मजबूत दिखाई देता है। उपयोग जगत और उच्च शिक्षण संस्थानों में निरंतर आदान प्रदान होने से शोध एवं अनुसंधान कार्य अर्थव्यवस्था और समाज की आवश्यकताओं से जुड़े रहते हैं। आप सबको पारस्परिक हित में औद्योगिक संस्थानों के वरिष्ठ लोगों से निरंतर विचार विमर्श करने के संस्थागत प्रयास करनी चाहिए। इससे शोध कार्य करने के वाले शिक्षकों और विद्यार्थियों को बहुत लाभ होगा। शिक्षण संस्थानों की प्रयोगशालाओं को स्थानीय, क्षेत्रीय, राष्ट्रीय तथा वैश्विक आवश्यकताओं से जोड़ने के कार्य आप सबकी प्राथमिकता होनी चाहिए। इन संदर्भ में आज के एक प्रेजेंटेशन में अनुसंधान के उपयोगी बनाने के दृष्टि से उच्च शिक्षण संस्थानों में डीप टेक तथा इनोवेशन पर आधारित स्टार्टअप्स को प्रोत्साहित करने के सुझाव दिए गए हैं। साथ ही रिसर्च को उपयोगी बनाने के अन्य सुझाव भी दिए गए हैं। ऐसे सुझावों को कार्यरूप देने से हमारी टेक्नोलॉजी ड्रिवन आत्मनिर्भरता और मजबूत होगा। राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति के अनुसार विद्यार्थियों को 21वीं सदी के संदर्भ में विश्व स्तर पर सक्षम बनाना हमारे शिक्षण संस्थानों का लक्ष्य है। इस लक्ष्य को प्राप्त करने के लिए अनेक आयामों पर कार्य करना होगा। शिक्षा प्रणाली सिस्टम बेस्ड हो और साथ ही विद्यार्थियों की विशेष प्रतिभाओं और आवश्यकताओं के अनुसार फ्लेक्सिबल हो। ये अनिवार्यता भी है और चुनौती भी है। इस संदर्भ में आज के विचार विमर्शों को आधार बनाकर निरंतर सचेत और सक्रिय रहने की आवश्यकता है। अनुभव के आधार पर समुचित बदलाव होते रहने चाहिए। विद्यार्थियों को सक्षम बनाना ही ऐसे बदलावों का उद्देश्य होना चाहिए। शिक्षण संस्थानों की गुणवत्ता का आकलन एक जटिल परंतु अनिवार्य प्रक्रिया है। आकलन के लक्ष्य, सिद्धांतों और प्रणालियों को राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति के उद्देश्यों के अनुरूप विकसित करना एक निरंतर चलने वाली प्रक्रिया है। किसी भी आकलन पद्धति की सफलता उसकी स्वीकार्यता और विश्वसनीयता में निहित होती है। आकलनकर्ताओं का निष्पक्ष और आदरणीय होना भी आकलन पद्धति की विश्वसनीयता की अनिवार्य शर्त है। इस मूलभूत आयामों के मजबूत रखने से ही देश विदेश में शिक्षण संस्थानों के आकलन को समुचित महत्व दिया जाएगा। माननीय शिक्षाविदों, उच्च शिक्षण संस्थानों को वेग से बहने वाली स्वच्छ नदियों की तरह अपने प्रवाह क्षेत्रों को उपजाऊ बनाना चाहिए। इस प्रवाह में संस्थानों की परंपरा और भविष्य दोनों समाहित है। कल सायंकाल मुझे कुछ ऐसे पूर्व विद्यार्थियों से मिलने का अवसर प्राप्त हुआ जिन्होंने अपने शिक्षण संस्थानों को आर्थिक सहायता प्रदान की है, कॉर्पोरेट सोसाइटी रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी के क्षेत्र में महत्वपूर्ण योगदान दिया है तथा देश के विकास के प्रति सक्रियता बनाए रखी है। उच्च शिक्षा से जुड़े सभी वरिष्ठ लोगों को समाज तथा परंपरा से जुड़कर उज्जवल भविष्य की ओर बढ़ने की मार्गों का निर्माण करना चाहिए। चरित्रवान, विवेकशील और सक्षम युवाओं के बल पर ही कोई भी राष्ट्र शक्तिशाली और विकसित बनता है। शिक्षण संस्थानों में हमारे युवा विद्यार्थियों के चरित्र, विवेक और क्षमता का निर्माण होता है। हमारे देश के युवा विद्यार्थियों का समग्र निर्माण ही आप सबके राष्ट्र प्रेम और समाज सेवा का प्रमाण होगा। मुझे विश्वास है कि आप सब उच्च शिक्षा के उदात्त आदर्शों को अवश्य प्राप्त करेंगे तथा भारत माता की युवा संततियों को स्वर्णिम भविष्य का उपहार देंगे। इसी विश्वास के साथ मैं अपनी वाणी को विराम देती हूँ। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
धन्यवाद ज्ञापन के लिए हम केंद्रीय शिक्षा मंत्री डॉक्टर सुकांता मजूमदार जी को आमंत्रित करेंगे।
नमस्कार। श्रीमती द्रौपदी मुर्मू जी, ऑनरेबल प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया, श्री धर्मेंद्र प्रधान जी, ऑनरेबल एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर, श्री अमित खरे जी, एडवाइजर टू ऑनरेबल पीएम, श्री विनीत जोशी जी, सेक्रेटरी हायर एजुकेशन, श्रीमती दीप्ति उमाशंकर जी, सेक्रेटरी टू प्रेसिडेंट, अदर ऑफिशियल्स ऑफ गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, वाइस चांसलर, डायरेक्टर्स, academicians and participants. As we conclude the highly enriching and thought-provoking Visitors Conference 2024-25, it is my distinct honor to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the Ministry of Education. This gathering has served as a remarkable platform to deliberate on the future of education, bringing together visionaries dedicated to shaping India's academic landscape. First and foremost, I extend my deepest gratitude to the Honorable President of India. Madam, your esteemed presence and inspiring inaugural address have profoundly resonated with all of us. Your unwavering dedication to education, innovation, and nation building is a beacon of hope and progress. Your leadership continues to inspire institutions across the country to strive for academic excellence, inclusivity, and global recognition. I also express my heartfelt appreciation to the Honorable Education Minister. Sir, your visionary leadership and steadfast commitment to implementing the National Education Policy NEP 2020 have been instrumental in driving excellence, equity, and international collaboration in education. Your tireless efforts in fostering research, innovation, and student-centric policies are truly commendable, and your guidance remains invaluable in propelling India towards becoming a global knowledge superpower, which is essential to realize Honorable Prime Minister's vision of Vikshit Bharat by 2047. Under the visionary leadership of Honorable President Madam, Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji, and Honorable Education Minister, the Indian education sector has made impressive strides both globally and within Asia, as evidenced by the QS World University Ranking 2025. It is heartening to mention that India has seen the inclusion of 46 institutions among the top 1,500 in the 2025 edition compared to just 11 in the 2015 edition, showcasing a 318% increase in the last 10 years, the best among the G20 nations. A special note of thanks to the esteemed Vice Chancellor, Directors, and all Center Higher Educational Institutes for their relentless effort and unwavering support. I extend my gratitude to the distinguished speaker and the panelists who have shared their profound expertise and perspective, making this conference an intellectually stimulating experience. Your contributions have shed light on the key areas such as academic flexibility, internationalization, research and innovation, and assessment reforms. My sincere appreciation goes to the delegate officer and staff from the Ministry of Education for their meticulous planning and seamless execution of this grand event. Your relentless dedication behind the census has ensured its success. Lastly, I thank all the participants and delegates for their enthusiastic engagement. Your insights, questions, and discussion have enriched this conference, reinforcing our shared vision for a stronger, more dynamic education system. As we move forward, let us continue working together to elevate India's higher education system to new heights of excellence and innovation. Once again, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for being part of this significant event. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
कृपया आप सभी राष्ट्रगान के लिए खड़े हो जाएं अपने स्थान पर। और इसी के साथ आज के विजिटर्स